Welcome to our series, Questions and Answers for a World in Crisis. Today, we conclude our series on Divine Love, Part 3. Sri Aurobindo. To bring the divine love and beauty and ananda into the world is indeed the whole crown and essence of our yoga. But it has always seemed to me impossible unless there comes as its support and foundation and guard the divine truth, what I call the supramental, and its divine power. Otherwise, love itself, blinded by the confusions of this present consciousness, may stumble in its human receptacles, and even otherwise, may find itself unrecognized, rejected, or rapidly degenerating and lost in the frailty of man's inferior nature. But when it comes in the divine truth and power, divine love descends first as something transcendent and universal, and out of that transcendence and universality, it applies itself to persons according to the divine truth and will, creating a vaster, greater, purer personal love than any the human mind or heart can now imagine. It is when one has felt this descent that one can be really an instrument for the birth and action of the divine love in the world. The mother did not tell you that love is not an emotion, but that divine love is not an emotion. A very different thing to say. Human love is made up of emotion, passion, and desire, all of them vital movements, therefore bound to the disabilities of the human vital nature. Emotion is an excellent and indispensable thing in human nature, in spite of all its shortcomings and dangers, just as mental ideas are excellent and indispensable things in their own field in the human stage. But our aim is to go beyond mental ideas into the light of the supramental truth, which exists not by ideative thought, but by direct vision and identity. In the same way, our aim is to go beyond emotion, to the height and depth and intensity of the divine love, and there feel through the inner psychic heart an inexhaustible oneness with the divine, which the spasmodic leapings of the vital emotions cannot reach or experience. As supramental truth is not merely a sublimation of our mental ideas, so divine love is not merely a sublimation of human emotions. It is a different consciousness with a different quality, movement, and substance. It, the divine love, exists in itself and does not depend on outer contact or outer expression. Whether it shall express itself outwardly, or how it will express itself outwardly, depends on the spiritual truth that has to be manifested. The divine love may not be able yet to manifest on the physical plane, humanity being what it is, as fully and freely as it would otherwise do. But that does not make it less close or intense than the human. It is there, waiting to be understood and accepted, and meanwhile giving all the help you can receive to raise and widen you into the consciousness in which it will be no longer possible for these difficulties and these misunderstandings to recur. The state in which there is possible the full and perfect union. And let me say also that as regards human love and divine love, I admitted the first as that from which we have to proceed and to arrive at the other, intensifying and transforming into itself, not eliminating human love. Divine love, in my view of it, is again not something ethereal, cold, and far, but a love absolutely intense, intimate, and full of unity, closeness, and rapture, using all the nature for its expression. Certainly, it is without the confusions and disorders of the present lower vital nature, which it will change into something entirely warm, deep, and intense. But that is no reason for supposing that it will lose anything that is true and happy in the elements of love. There is also a divine love that is personal, but it is not like the ordinary personal human love, dependent on any return from the person. It is personal, but not egoistic. It goes from the real being in the one to the real being in the other. But to find that, liberation from the ordinary human way of approach is necessary. The love which is turned towards the divine ought not to be the usual vital feeling, which men call by that name. For that is not love, but only a vital desire, an instinct of appropriation, the impulse to possess and monopolize. Not only is this not divine love, but it ought not to be allowed to mix in the least degree in the yoga. The true love for the divine is a self-giving, free of demand, full of submission and surrender. It makes no claim, imposes no condition, strikes no bargain, indulges in no violences of jealousy or pride or anger, for these things are not in its composition. The divine love, unlike the human, is deep and vast and silent. One must become quiet and wide to be aware of it and reply to it. He must make it his whole object to be surrendered, so that he may become a vessel and instrument, leaving it to the divine wisdom and love to fill him with what is needed. Let him also fix this in the mind, not to insist that in a given time he must progress, develop, get realization. Whatever time it takes, he must be prepared to wait and persevere and make his whole life an aspiration and an opening for the one thing only, the divine. To give oneself is the secret of sadhana, not to demand and acquire. The more one gives oneself, the more the power to receive will grow. But for that, all impatience and revolt must go. All suggestions of not getting, not being helped, not being loved, going away, of abandoning life or the spiritual endeavor must be rejected. Divine love is of two kinds. The divine love for the creation and the souls that are part of itself, and the love of the seeker and love for the divine beloved. It has both the personal and impersonal element. But the personal is free here from all lower elements or bondage to the vital and physical instincts. The psychic love is pure and full of self-giving without egoistic demands. But it is human and can err and suffer. The divine love is something much vaster and deeper and full of light and ananda. The divine's love is that which comes from above, poured down from the divine oneness, and its ananda on the being. Psychic love is a form taken by divine love in the human being according to the need and possibilities of the human consciousness. If love is psychic in its motive, it always brings the sense of oneness, or at least of an inner, intimate closeness of being. The divine love is based upon oneness, and the psychic derives from the divine love. The love that belongs to the spiritual planes is of a different kind. The psychic has its own, more personal love, bhakti, surrender. Love in the higher or spiritual mind is more universal and impersonal. The two must go together to make the highest divine